It's Julie Hutchison here from Think, Be, Do Leadership, and it is day 9 of Communication Fest, where we are looking at 30 days of communication tips and how to make an impact and influence with the people around you in your business or wherever you're working or even at home. And we use social life as well. But generally, what we're talking about is how to be a better communicator, how to get your point across, how to get people to do what you want them to do, and all those amazing things that you might want to do with your communication. Build relationships as well, of course. So today we are talking about simplify to amplify. And the reason we're talking about this is because it's like the elephant in the room, either you've been subjected to this, or you've been the subject of this. Hopefully it's not that one. So maybe you have had it with yourself where you're trying to get your point across and you think you're doing a really good job, but then you see somebody like stifling a yawn or looking about, darting their eyes about, seeing if they can see somebody, and they're like, oh, Bob, hello, oh, I need to talk to you, trying to change the subject, or just like glazing over and rolling their eyes and thinking, and you're like, are you listening to me? And if it's not your kids and it's somebody at work, then we're in trouble because we've got something important to say and they're not listening, and they're kind of like, oh, they just don't look like they're interested, or they're not paying attention to what you're saying, they're not taking it in. And you realize that actually they just don't want to listen to you. Maybe it's not you, but you've felt that. So you've been in a meeting, and I don't know, here comes Bob. Bob is, blaring on in the background about something, and he knows what he's talking about. He's a really clever guy. He knows what he's going on about, but it's just on and on and on, and it keeps repeating himself, and he keeps like trying to get you to agree with him, but you don't, because you're just not listening anymore, because you're thinking about lunch, or you're thinking, oh my God, please, Bob, shut up. One of those things. And the thing is that we need to stop that, don't we, really? Because at the end of the day, communication is there for a reason, to build the relationships, to get what you want, to get information across. And if nobody's listening, you're not getting your information. You're certainly not going to have any impact and influence other than a negative one. And therefore, we need to change it. So today, day 9 is simplify to amplify. So this is the thing. So if you're listening live, please say hello and put hashtag live and any comments. If you're listening on record, then it's hashtag replay for any of your comments. And I would love to hear if you've ever been bored witless by somebody in a meeting, or who's just trying to stand there, when you got your coffee. When you're walking along the corridor and they go, oh, I need to speak to you. And you're like, oh God, no. And they go on and on and on. So this is what we're talking about. And what the problem is the thing that when we know it, and we've talked a little bit about this before, but when we know a lot about something, or we're really passionate about something, it's really easy to try and give everybody everything and to keep going until they nod and agree with us. And the problem is the more we give, it's like eating a cake. One slice is enough, or maybe half a slice, on my point. But one slice is enough. So you might have 2 slices and you might have 3 slices. But if you eat the whole cake, it's complete. You're overfaced. You're like that big kid on Matilda when he ate the whole chocolate cake. You're just going to be sick. It's just like, oh God. And it's like somebody's vomiting information at you, because you can't take it in. You can't listen, because there's so much there and it's so quick. And you're like, do you know what? Stop. I cannot hear what you're saying. I cannot listen to what you're saying, because there's just too much of it. There's just too much information. It's all over the place. And so I can't listen. And that person, have you noticed this as well? When you get more frustrated, they get more frustrated. They tell you even more. They put even more information at you because they think that's the answer. And maybe you've been guilty of this, I don't know. But if we feel like we need to say it louder or faster, or like give them another piece of information because clearly they didn't understand. But actually the opposite is true. So that's why I'm talking about simplify to amplify. Because when somebody can really hear what you've got to say, or see, or whatever you want to do, all of the senses, when you're communicating, less is more. One piece of cake at a time, so to speak. But actually, we can look at that even more clearly and look at, well, what information do we need? So this is about specifically, yes, we need to look at how we deliver the information, but what information do I actually need to give somebody so that they can understand? And the thing is, you could give them everything. You could give them the whole cake and the recipe and the flour and everything else, or you can pick out the 3 things that they really need to know, or 2, but let's say 2, 3, maybe 4, but that's enough of things they need to know. So when I'm talking to you here, I'm going to say this is what we're talking about, but I'm going to say there's 2 things you need to do, for example. And once you've said there's 2 or 3 things that you need to hear, or 2 or 3 things that are super important about this, is stop, breathe, and let them take in the point that there's only 2 things or there's only 3 things. Yeah. And once they've got that idea, suddenly we've got a couple of slices of cake that I'm going to be having to hear, and they're finite pieces of information that I can eat, digest, let's say, so that I don't have to just have, the whole cake recipe all fed to me all at once. So what sort of things would we say? Well, the way I think that you should do it is this, is look at your information, look at what you want to say to somebody, look at the point you're trying to get across. So if it's a presentation or if it's you in a meeting, is not to start from the beginning and go all the way through to the end, like your life story, is to, well, let's take your life story actually. So if you were going to do that, start from the beginning, go to the end, it's going to be a long story. It's going to take a long time. But if you were to say, well, there are 3 distinct parts of my life story that are really interesting, that being 1, when I was a kid, 2, when I was a grown-up, and 3, when I was really old, and then 3 different places in my life that I think are really important that you should listen to. Okay. So first of all, what you're saying to somebody is, it's not a plethora of blah, 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 blah. It's 3 things, just 3 things, or 2, or however many you want, which means that person goes, okay, I think I'm all right with that. Then you can tell them why these 3 things are important before you go into the information. So for example, the reason why I want to talk to you about when I was a child is because that formed the rest of my life, and there's some things in there that are very important to me. If, for example, and then you can say, well, and you need to listen about my adult life, because that's where I really did my best work. So I want to talk to you about that. And then I want to talk to you about my older life, because that's where I look back and realize some of my mistakes. So those are 3 things, and they're why I want to talk to you about it. And then, and only then, when you've got the sort of nodding and they're like, oh, now I want to hear what you've got to say, and I'm listening, and it's interesting, and I'm not overwhelmed, and I am like, oh, begging for more. That's my whole desk going all over the place. At that point, then you can go back and say, okay, let me tell you about my point number 1, my childhood, for example. Don't ask me why did I choose childhood, adulthood, and being old, but it doesn't matter. Whatever the subject matter is that you want to talk about, if you break it down into the 3 most important points and are able to name them, and then explain why they're important, and then say what you want to say about them, you've given somebody a chance to go, oh, it's a cake. Oh, I'm going to get 3 slices. Yes, I know why I need the 3 slices. And now I'm ready to hear what you've got to say. So the opposite happens. They're not glazing their eyes over. They're actually begging for the next piece of cake. Yeah, because they know it's important because you told them. They get it, and then they want to know more. So this is a way to stop that whole, oh, please stop telling me all this information that you know. So you get your point across, you get the reason for the point across, and you get the information in bite-sized chunks, which means that they can actually appreciate what you're trying to say. And therefore, they're either going to take it on board, agree with you, or disagree, at least knowledgeably, and stay the whole course. Yeah, they're going to listen to the meeting. They're not going to switch off. They're going to listen to you, and you're going to get your point across, which means you have more impact, more influence, and therefore you get where you want to go to. So I hope that has helped you. It's a super, super important technique, and it's not really a technique, but a way of being, really, in that breaking it down and getting buy-in before you give them the whole blur. Okay, and on that note, I'm going to go. Have a wonderful afternoon. We have 21 more of these. I just had to add up then. Yes, 21 more of these tips. We're going till the end of September. If you found these useful, for a start, please go back and implement all 9 that we've got, because over the course of this 30 days, these are going to be really useful. If you actually implement, don't just watch them, but actually implement and change what you're doing, then your communication, your impact and influence is going to be way better than it was before. So please do implement and let me know how you're getting on, because I love a bit of feedback. I love an action taker, and I would love to hear what the results are that you are getting from implementing these communication tips in Communication Fest. So if you want some help in either you implementing them or your team or your business, improving the communication within your business, then please message me and I'll be very happy to tell you about how we help people either in your business or as part of one of our programs. So have a wonderful afternoon and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.